Now, Bafana Bafana are currently in camp in Stellenbosch preparing for the Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast that commences next week. The team will be in camp until Tuesday and then they depart on Wednesday to Gauteng and play against Lesotho at the Lucas Moripe Stadium before flying out to Ivory Coast on Thursday. To tell us more about Bafana's prospects is former Bafana Bafana player Marks Maponyane, who's joining us via Zoom. Good evening, Marks. Welcome to Sports Live.
Good evening, sir, and good evening to the viewers.
Well, let's just start with the news that has just come in, that a memorandum of agreement and understanding around payments and other issues surrounding remuneration at Afcon has been agreed between the players and the association. That must be a huge relief for the players.
That is obviously a huge relief, given the fact that that has always been a problem ahead of any tournament. And it has always been something that takes the focus away and gives the public the reason as to why the players are not or did not perform as well. So this time I'm glad that it looks like all is in order. And I mean, imagine the agreement has been made or has been reached with the players and also SABC securing the rights. And that shows that all else is in place. It's for them now to go on the pitch and do the business.
Thanks, Mark. I know that's a great talking point for a long time to come about the SABC securing the rights. But I also want to talk about the 23-man squad selected by Coach Bruges and a team that's comprising largely of locally based players with Mishlali Mayambela. We also got Sipelele Sitole, the only two overseas-based players. Do you think that might affect the team at this level?
No, not at all. In fact, the hunger of not having done well and not having participated in the past can also be a driving force, because we know what happened to the golden generation of Ivory Coast at the time. And we know that likes of Dieter Drogba didn't even lift the trophy. So it's not about the names. It's not about how often you've been there. Because often when you are having a group of big names, you find that they are cocky and they just not pulling the weight because they are thinking about where they belong, the bigger picture, their European teams. And in this case, it's a different story. They want to be there. Just like those Bafana Bafana players who delivered. They were hungry, they wanted to be there, and they did well. So for that reason, I believe that they have to look into that category or box and say, we want to be where the likes of Lyle Foster is.
Now, speaking of Lyle Foster, he won't be making this team. Your thoughts on that?
He won't be making this team, but it's not obviously a chance match. We know that this is just a game. Any game is not bigger than any human being, and we know what he has gone through, the mental issues. And yes, he's back in this team, he's banging in goals, but it does not necessarily mean he's got to be stretched and be going all over the place. So, yes, we respect the decision of the coach and the team that agreed with the coach that give a man a break. And that, by the way, if you look at the other side, on the hindsight, you'll realize that there is some player whose name can just make waves, given the fact that he came into the place where Lyle Foster was supposed to be.
Now, there's talk about Coach Hugo Bruges opting to select only 23 players. Other teams went with 27. What do you make of that decision?
I always believe that quality is more important than quantity, because I've also checked that some teams have gone with 25. As long as you know that you've got the 11 in the backup, because sometimes you will end up with so many players and half of them are doing nothing except being troublemakers in a long run and complaining about not playing. And those are the ones that you think, the 25th and the 26th and 27th player are the ones that just causes this problem. So you have to have a tight team. And if history can remind you that sometimes numbers are not winning games, it's the quality, as I said earlier. Acadia team had only or registered only 13 players, and they were winning trophies and giving us a hard time. So as long as you create that hunger and camaraderie, the teamwork and the friendship and all the commitment that you can find from few people that you can work with. And the coach, I'm sure he thought about that. And he thought, let me not just parade numbers, but let me just get guys to be hungry and give everyone a run if I can.
Interesting points you make there. Speaking about teamwork, speaking about quality versus quantity. 11 Sundowns players in the squad, not a single Chiefs player. I mean, that's been unthinkable if you go back to the days of old.
Yeah, unthinkable it is, but also not a train smash. And I'll tell you why not a train smash. For me, it's not a surprise because we know that Sundowns have really been dominating the continent, and their players have sort of stood toe-to-toe with the continental opposition. And just having gone to the Africa League and the Champions League and all these and dominating shows you that there is growth. So it shouldn't even be a topic, because if you remember when Bafana Bafana won the Afcon Nations Cup in '96, the majority of those players were from Pirates, the same Pirates that went on to dominate the continent. And that obviously is a stepping stone for the coach to say, I will work on this platform, because at least they've got the experience of how tough the continent can be. And just the last example, I've seen at the time when AC Milan was dominating. And that's when the coach said, I'm going to take 9 of AC Milan players, because these guys have won 56 games unbeaten. And why don't I work with the combination that's been existing, as long as they are Italians? And Italy did well. So it's not who you play for, but you're still a South African, and the aim is the same, to bring the trophy home.
So from Bafana Bafana, we look at the opponents now in the Afcon. We have Tunisia and Mali, they're tough opponents. Then you have neighbours Namibia, who've got a bit of an underdog tag. What do you think are their strengths and weaknesses, and how should they tackle these opponents?
Yeah, I looked at Tunisia on many or various occasions, and Tunisia are playing a different game, just like all those North African countries that are playing a different game. Straightforward, direct, and very robust. And they can't give you more if you tighten them or if you close all the gaps and compete toe-to-toe. So for them, I think they think we've been there, we're in the World Cup, we are going to help the situation. I mean, we are going to help ourselves by just knocking out all the Southern African or all the African teams like they have been dominating. But I can tell you, we can stand on the same ground with them. They can also lose ideas. If we just say a game against Tunisia, if we get a draw, we know we A for away. If we win, it's another step forward.
Now, I know...
Oh, by the way, while you're talking about that, Mali, as you heard earlier, and the coach mentioned that they are neighbors. They are used to Ivory Coast because they're just on the border. And they may be used to the weather, but it's not the Mali that I know. I mean, the Mali of the Gator days is not happening. That is why they have been struggling. So South Africa can say, these guys have no reputation that brings them here. They're just like us, having to work hard to be where we are. And for that, they can continue winning. But as for the neighbors, the Namibia or Namibian players are applying their trade in South Africa. And they obviously say we're applying our trade where we can improve our game. So I don't see any reason that South Africa can struggle against Namibia when the Namibians think, if you want to improve your players, go and play in South Africa. There's no logic there for me. So we should beat Namibia.
Well, Mark, I want to end on a lighter note. Any, you've had a winning side to you from all the years of being a footballer. Any advice you want to give to the footballers that are currently in the Bafana Bafana squad?
Most importantly for me is stay together, be friends, work hard, have a common purpose, and make sure that you love what you're doing. And the last thing, do not hero worship opponent. Respect them, but make sure that you show them that you also playing in the same game, on the same pitch, and you are giving the same commitment.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Marks Maponyane, wonderful Bafana Bafana player. He's harked on the great days of 1996. Remember the time we last won Afcon? Let's hope this is going to be our year.